2 hours spent with Pace Morby. What's my takeaway? What is Matt, the lumberjack landlord's takeaway, who is possibly going to be in this video with me as soon as he finds a 10-year-old to help him with the tech? Because he's here, but he can't get his camera working. So while you're messing with that, Matt, I'm going to go through my takeaways. And it's really weird. I think when you're talking with somebody like Pace, he's got a large platform, huge communities, right? He's got the subject to the whole space. He's the guy that people go to. And the amount of time and energy and research that I went into Pace was Zuber has interacted with him, knows him. You've watched a bunch of his stuff, right? The people in our circle talk a lot about Pace, but I don't do subject to. I don't do creative financing. I don't want to do those things. I don't want to learn how to do those things. So I haven't really spent much time learning from or watching Pace. I knew he was there. I knew that if somebody wanted to learn about subject two, that's where we send them. Like if somebody wants to learn about Millennial Mike and investing at a distance, like we've got the guy. If somebody wants to find the Cody Davises of the world, who's doing the super chat, and for me and soon to be Matt, thank you for that, Cody. You want to have develop the skills to talk to the owner of a property and do the creative purchases. We've got people to send you to in this space of investing. But I'm actually pretty careful with who I spend time around. I actually kind of struggled being around Zuber and you, Matt, in 2021 when I had a paid off property and interest rates were really low. And you guys were anticipating massive opportunities to come in the next few years. And you guys were getting your money right, getting your dry powder set up for your next acquisition. And both of you were telling me, in your position, we would take out a mortgage on that paid off house. And even if it's just you have the money sitting there for the next possible deal, it was hard to resist that because I respect both of you. And I know you guys are doing better than I am. It's like scale, size, growth mode, size of portfolio. But it wasn't my goal, right? There's the Jesse Lees of the world where you can go and do these mailers to find people and have these funnels to find your next deal in your properties. All of my deals are from the MLS, super boring. And one property every 2 years in the beginning, narrowed down to, one a year or so in the last couple of years. But it doesn't take a lot of funnels to find those deals. MLS searches, just agents with auto searches set up. I like the lazy aspect of being able to do this while you were working full time while I was raising 3 kids. I wasn't trying to have this huge portfolio. So whenever you're talking with people like Pace, it's hard to connect with them, right? We had a 2-hour video where we mostly listened. It was good to listen. It was easier to be in a situation where you can ask questions, right? That's why I kind of like live streams more than I like just recorded videos, because sometimes the comment directs way the video is going to go that you didn't even anticipate. So we were there to ask Pace questions or to say things I thought he was going to be offended by. But how do you connect with somebody, right? Because your YouTube channel, Matt, just passed 10,000 subscribers, and you've got a course and you've got a boot camp and you've got all the people that you deal with, and you're trying to make sure that the people who are most vested in you get the most of your time.
Yes.
Well, how many people is Pace dealing with?
Oh my word.
With his sellers and his 9 assistants and right, to even get on the radar to have a conversation that has any depth to it. So how do you do that? Well, you have a 2-hour interview with the guy, and you get to ask questions and have it go back and forth. I think when it comes down to watching anyone, any content creator, any investor going to any what do you call it, meetup where there's someone presenting. And the problem I have with most meetups is people pitch something, right? They get a sponsor. That's why there's the meetup. I like the meetups where you just get together and everybody talks. But at those, there's going to be people like Pace who are doing something that you don't want to do. There's people like me doing things that you don't want to do, right? Let's say you want to do creative finance and you want to find the off-market deals and you are really just hunting for the wholesalers with the best deals. You're driving for dollars, you're sending out mailers, you're doing all this. I think it would be a huge mistake to not also have an MLS search going, because there's probably going to be a deal on there that you recognize that other people miss because you're studying your market. So does that mean that they can't learn from me because I have an MLS search? Or could they go, I have this other strategy, but I'll also incorporate the MLS search in there? And then the way I titled this video, on the thumbnail at least, was from what you said. And when it comes to investing, or when it comes to dealing with your life, and in any way, whether it's investing, family, your hobbies, whatever, you need to right size it. And every time you said that, I could see Pace actually took a note. You got to right size it. And that's kind of the Coach Carson mentality of small and mighty investor. I like to say I want the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units, because I wasn't investing in real estate because I love rentals. Right. And Pace said this during the interview. He said it actually, at some point, the equity might get to be so large that you just sell everything, take the cash, live on it, or invest the cash in some other asset that produces cash flow. Because it's not about the rentals, it's about the freedom that comes with it. And that was where I think my biggest takeaway from this came from, when I don't know that I would have started the video this way. It kind of came to me halfway through the video. So I'm glad that I had the video, because this makes me feel more like a success. Because success, I define success as the continuous realization of a dream. So if somebody's dream since childhood is to be a police officer, success is being a police officer as long as they can. Continuous realization of a dream. If somebody's dream is to have a loving spouse and raise a family, and they do that, the longer that they maintain that, the longer the success lasts. So for guys like Pace, my takeaway is that the continuous realization of the dream for Pace is to be doing bigger and better deals, to be, to figure out what's going on in the market now, what's currently working, and be at the top of the game for that, to tackle the next challenge. And so it's not that I feel more successful than Pace or less successful, because he's more successful at that goal. Yes, Anna Kay, this is really live now. So just every now and then I see that in the chat, because I used to hate that. I'd watch something on BiggerPockets and they'd be doing a webinar, and I'd see 1,700 people in the comments, and I was like, is this a recording? And then they'd read a comment. So I think my continuous realization of a dream, my version of success, is having time freedom. And literally, I can wake up and I could go to work if I want to. I could do it like you said in your live the other day. You've seen me do some projects on my properties, because sometimes I think that's fun.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'd rather hire somebody.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
It depends on if there was a new Diablo release.
exactly right. Yep. And then everybody loses me for 2 weeks.
Yes, exactly. No, I think what you said is exactly right, though. I think the thing that people miss out, and sorry that I'm not on camera, technical difficulties. I'm not sure what's going on. Some setting on my camera changed, and hey, I'm not smart enough to figure it out online. So, but I think that, kind of what I covered in the live last night is very true. I think too often people aren't content, and I think that and in all honesty, I think it's almost the younger that you are, the less content you are. And I think that's obviously by design, because you have the energy and you care much less about the BS to money ratio. Like, you're willing to take on nonstop complaints and nonstop issues and just handle it and fix it and figure it out and get through it. And I remember that in my early 20s. I remember doing that with my properties, and it was a pain in the ass, especially managing them myself, and not having systems and not having processes in place, and only using a spreadsheet. That was the last to go. That was my last bastion of, I'm a small landlord, was my spreadsheet finally gave up the ghost at about 50 or 60 units. Because it was hard to manage in a spreadsheet when you're at 50 or 60. And then you don't get any of the benefits of automation of your business. But again, I think the thing that I just kept on arriving at, I mean, you're in your early 50s, I'm in my late 40s. The BS to money ratio. I want to enjoy my life. I've got 4 young kids. I waited till later on in life to have my kids. I knew that I wouldn't be a good dad in my 30s because I was working 100 hours a week. I could barely be a good husband, and be attentive. And my life revolved around that. And I think that Pace is just one of those super uber. That was me in my 40s, but I waited to have kids. It looks like he waited to have kids too, in all honesty. But the thrill of the kill for him and growth and doing the next thing and expanding, like that's still what keeps him going. And for me, I just decided I wanted to get off the ride. I do one, maybe two properties a year now. I'm going to sell more properties this year than I'm going to buy. And that comes from right sizing. That comes from being in the position where you're just like, you know what, I'm good. I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. I've got the income that I need. And that's the most difficult thing to right size. You're a single guy in his early 50s trying to right size. Much easier because I've spent a lot of time with you. You're low maintenance. you know, Hey, Matt, can we get Denny's sometime in the next 36 hours? Sure, we can do that. Let's do it sooner than later because I'm hungry. But 4 kids, private school, wanting to keep my wife retired, wanting a big house because I didn't want a house hack anymore. I would house hack tomorrow if we financially needed to. But my preference is to not do it anymore because I've done all this and made all this money and created this empire to be able to live in the size house I wanted. And you've been to my house. It's obnoxious. I would never build this house. I only bought it because I bought it at a price that a house half the size cost. That's the only reason I bought it. So yeah, I think Pace is super smart. I think he's a lot of fun. I think the thing that I was most excited about in spending that time with him was that I really felt like he was genuine. And you don't get that. I don't get that feeling from a lot of the talking heads out there. I feel like they talk about something that they learned somewhere else, that they figured out somewhere else, or that somebody figured out for them and then did that for them. That's what I really enjoyed, is I really felt like he figured out a lot of these things on his own, in his journey, because he had to. He was going so fast that problem just had to be solved right then and there in order to allow for growth. But I don't think that that's anybody in our audience. I don't think anybody in our audience wants to be Pace. And quite frankly, they couldn't be. That's just a fact. Like, you can think all you want. I'm just choosing not to be Pace. Dude, you couldn't be Pace. I'm sorry. You just can't. No, couldn't be.
So in the comments, is there anybody here or in Futureland in the comments who wants to be the next Pace Morby? Let us
Yeah.
know. So here's a couple things that with Pace that you referenced here. You would house hack if you financially needed to. I house hacked on purpose so that I can travel and have somebody living on my
Yes.
property.
Mhm.
This property pays for my travel when I do the
Absolutely.
housing portion of it. Did you see the visceral reaction Pace had? His face's reaction when the thought of house hacking crossed the conversation. He was like, "Oh, I can't believe people do that. I would never do that." How many millions of families live in apartments? How
Sure.
many would like to live in apartments, but you get to pick the neighbor, or
Yep.
live in an apartment and get paid to live there, right?
Yeah.
So there was definitely a clear resonating tone of he's talking to different people than we are.
Yeah.
There are people who will watch both and who will go, yeah, I'll never house hack because one, they have a longer timeline on what they want to do. Two, they make more money, right?
Yep.
House hacking was almost a requirement to me because it was the only way to get on the property ladder.
Sure. Mine too.
Right. And then you talked about uh younger people having that drive and everything. I think the missing element there. So yeah, I think you can have more energy to do things. I've got friends who picked up running at 60 and now they're doing marathons in their
Yeah.
60s, right? So I think that
Zub's
that can
only
happen to
51.
anybody. Yeah, Zuber's in his 50s and in early 50s and he's going, I'm going to go do a marathon, right? So that can
Yeah.
happen too. But I
Sure.
think what we have is it's really rare to have people like Cody, where he starts and he grows massively quick. And then they generally what happens is they go the Pace route. So they just keep trying to grow and keep trying to grow and keep trying to grow until they fall on their face. Well, Cody grew really big, diversified in several different ways, and then he is right sizing his portfolio to give him the life that he wants. And what's rare about that is most people in their 20s don't have the decades of hate that comes from having to work for those decades. If you have to work in your 20s and you have to work in your 30s, by the time you get to your 40s, you're thinking, there's got to be a way out, right? Whereas in your 20s, you think, okay, I can reach financial freedom, work is optional. What's the point of life? You don't have enough hate to having to work to go, the point of life can be anything but work, and then go find those other things to do out there. So they say comparison is the thief of joy. You have no comparison if you haven't worked for those decades to know it sucks having a boss and it sucks having customers. And those things are okay if it's by choice, right? Go to almost any farmer's market in your area and look at the people running the stands that are making their things that matter to them and then selling them. Could be a side hustle, could be they're retired and they're doing it, but they don't look miserable unless they're the person that was hired to work the stand because they have to be there to work. You can literally tell the difference in somebody doing something that they enjoy, even if it's for money, versus somebody has to do this or they don't make rent next month. I see Chester did a super chat. It all goes back to know and stick to your goals. Knowing your goals is huge. And part of the thing with knowing the goals is understanding what is enough, because a lot of people know their goals and then they move the markers. They reach the goal and they go, okay, that was good. And what's next? Instead of, and this is the bartender scene out of Passengers. If people could learn to be happy where they're at instead of figuring out how to get where they're trying to be, imagine how much better their life would be. And so if you could figure out, I'm going to set a goal, and mine was financial freedom. There is no goal of more financial freedom right now. And I absolutely agree with you, Matt. My kids are over 18 and they've moved out. And as a byproduct, they'll inherit millions. It's not my job to make sure that they do. It's their job to be successful on their own.
Yeah.
Your kids are younger. You're doing the private school route. I actually had a list of reasons why I didn't do private school, even if you take money out of the equation. But you have, you're 18, at minimum 18, if not college years too, expenses of kids going forward. I totally,
Yeah.
the reverse nature of you needed more than I did, which was the right size. You knew how to right size what you needed.
Yeah.
And then the thing that tripped Pace up at the end of the video when I got a chance to point out, because he really kind of bashed on BiggerPockets having, no mods in their thing. It was like, I'm an admin on their thing. So I'm the one there that probably would have let his thing stay for a while until the hate gets too built up and then took it down anyways, because that's the goal, is you're trying to find a positive community. And when you get too much hate comments on a comment, you get rid of it. But he asked me if I was going to be at some next event or something. And I said, no, I don't go to those events. I don't know if this was on the video or after the video. Remember,
It
we were
was.
at the end. It was on the video? Okay.
Yeah, it was.
And I've been asked by people, hey, are you going to like BPCon? And I would go, no, because I've won the game. I don't need to play. I'm not learning for the next growth. If you want to learn how to buy rentals and you want to learn how to scale a portfolio, you go to BPCon. You go to the one rental at a time event. You go to these things. I'll go to present. I'll go to share what I'm learning, what I've learned so far. But I don't want to get around the Pace Morbys. I don't want to get around the Jeff Stevens. I don't want to get around the people that are like, here's how you grow and you can be bigger. You can have more. Because I could. It's kind of like my members only, right? We do 2 members only a month where we look at deals. I really want to look at the members' deals, not mine. So sometimes people will show up and nobody has a deal to look at. So I'll pull up my emails from my agent and I'll go, okay, here's what they've sent me. Let me go through the logic chain of what it's like to look at a property. My fear is I'm going to find a property and it'll be a good deal. And I'll be like, I'm not stupid. I'm not passing a good deal. I'm going to buy it. But if I look at the members deals in other areas or in assets I don't invest in, then I'm not worried about finding a deal because I don't want those deals. I've right-sized my portfolio. And when I said I won the game, I've stopped playing. I think he's heard that 1,000 times. I've heard that 1,000 times. People have said that on every podcast ever. When you win the game, stop playing. Like if you're a stock investor, you stop taking huge risks and you stop using margin and you stop doing these things. Once you've reached that financial freedom number, you still invest, right? The money piles up, you do something with it. But I think it's really hard in the beginning when we're thinking, okay, I just want to get one rental. How do I find the deal? How do I fund the deal? How do I keep the deal? How do I manage the deal? To even at that beginning stage think, when would I stop looking for deals? When would I stop wanting to grow? And I don't know that I knew that in the beginning. right?
Yeah.
Kind of like Zuber said, I want to get to 4 because I'll have a better retirement.
Yep.
I thought, and this was the thought that turned into a phrase later, was I say now, this wasn't, it was the thought in the beginning. It's this phrase now. The best thing we can do for our kids is not provide generational wealth. The best thing we can do for our kids is take care of our finances so we don't become a financial burden to them when we're too old to work. So my goal really wasn't even financial freedom. For the first 10 years of investing, I think I said over and over, I'm going to work until I die.
Yeah.
And then it turned into somewhere between a year and 3 years from now, or tomorrow and 3 years from now. And then I just retired, right? Things shift. But it wasn't until later that I realized if I set a goal of financial freedom and I've passed it, I have the personality like Pace, right? Every industry that I go into, every job I've ever had, I'm quickly demoted down to the boss or the president, or I get demoted from patrol to whatever other aspects I could do in law enforcement. And the Marines, it was meritorious promotions because gaining your points takes too long. It was whatever to do to master that field that you're in. I could have easily let real estate take over, and I could be trying to do the next biggest thing, adding risks, taking risks, having more probably eventually, but not having the time freedom, which that's probably just happened in the last few years, probably
Yeah.
since 2018. The first time I took a month with my brother and went to another country, and I thought, every day can be like this? What am I
Hmm.
doing? This is stupid. So that's why I'm glad Pace didn't seem offended by it. But I was serious when I said, man, I don't want to get any of that on me. Keep that away from
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it was like I said, I mean, I think that, right sizing is the most important thing. It's literally the most important thing. And how do you right size? You figure out your BS to money ratio. That's what you do. That's what you do. I thought what you said was exactly right. You're never, ever, ever going to be in a position where, like, hey, listen, I really want to work a whole lot more hours and give up a bunch of my freedom. And I even made that comparison on my live yesterday where I just said, Dion's at 15,000 bucks now. If you said, hey, Dion, you got to go from 2 to 20 hours, but you can go to 30,000 bucks, he'd be like, no, thanks. He'd be like, not interested. And that's the thing that, I said as non-condescendingly as I can say it. I'm proud of somebody that knows themselves that well, and it's like, and Pace used a bunch of words and books that I never had to read because I didn't go to high school. Know thyself. I didn't have to read Shakespeare. The only Shakespeare book that I had was Making My Kitchen Table Level, when I was in an apartment. But again, for me, it was really always I saw and I created the way and I found the way to do the next deal and do a great deal and then do another one and another one and another one. So just like you were saying, you're like, hey, I can't spend my time doing all of this work, looking through and sift. I'm going to find a great deal and then I'm going to be kind of obligated to do it. And so you almost have to kind of like distance yourself from it. And for me, it was funny because I still see this stuff. I still have all my cues. I can do it a whole lot faster now because there's just not a lot of inventory that's added. And when you're not really looking and having to run the numbers, you and I do it a lot the same way where we're just kind of like, all right, in less than 3 or 4 minutes, I can figure out if any of these deals need further investigation. But you get to that point where it's like, I was talking about on the live stream last night. I said, I could go to 500 units. That is not hard. I could easily get to 500 units in the next 5 years. Do I want that? And my answer was a hard no. I don't want that. So I don't know. I think that's one of the interesting things about what we do is he talked a lot about what's possible and we do what's probable. Anybody can invest the way that you and I do.
He
He
didn't
didn't
like
like
that.
that. Yeah, he
He
didn't
didn't
like
know.
that. Well, it's because I think he thought that I was saying that a bunch of his people were just, shooting for the stars and what was possible. Hey, listen, at the end of the day, I'm willing to bet, and this is no slight on Pace. Because what he asks for takes far, far, far more work than what we ask for. We get people successful at a much lower barrier of entry, much, much, much lower, you know? And I think that Pace is amazing. I think that what he does is needed. I'd love to go to one of those things because I gotta believe it's a bunch of alphas running around, would be my guess.
That's the problem is so many people think alpha and beta.
Mm-hmm.
They forget that the goal is to be the sigma.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to do some research on that maybe, but I don't want to be the alpha.
Yep.
The alphas just get used.
Yeah,
So
I'm with you. So like I said, I love the time. I'm a fan of his. I've watched a lot of his content. I really enjoyed it. I've only said that about 930 times, but that's true. And you know me, I'm the first one to say that guy sucks. And literally
yeah,
make
you
fun
weren't
of him.
saying Pace sucks. You're the first one who would call out somebody who
Oh
sucks.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I was, honestly, I went into it going, man, I hope he's not difficult or a jerk. And he disagreed with us on some stuff, and that's awesome, because I
No,
think that there's a lot of people that want to do what he's doing, and maybe they get there and maybe they don't, and maybe they need $1 million or he highlighted it on that video. He made like $1.23 million last month. That's awesome. But I wouldn't trade what I make for what he makes, for what his schedule looks like versus my schedule.
that's exactly the point where, and I referenced this a little bit. Uh, I believe, and you're good there, I think, as you right size and get some of your projects done and
Yes.
don't start new ones.
Yes.
But we're better than time billionaires, right?
Yes.
Imagine the billionaire, and I don't think Pace is billionaire, but he's multi decamillionaire.
Hundreds of millionaires. Yeah, hundreds of millions.
Right.
Yeah.
It made $1 million last month. I made in profit probably 21,000. That's my average net every month now after setting aside for everything is 21.
Yep. Wow. Nice.
And last month I had a turnover and I did go to the project twice, so I probably did 4 hours last month.
I knew it.
I did the showing, and I went one time and made a video, although that was for the video, to look through and see how the guy's progress was going on a couple of things. So on those months, yeah, it's 4 hours. But then here's September. I'll probably do 30 minutes this month total.
Yeah.
Because I've already checked what rents have been paid, what tenant needed that reminder. Hey, it's the 5th. Do you want a late fee or do you want to pay your rent? Oh, I meant to do that, right? That kind of thing. Takes
Sure.
a couple texts. So that's where the time goes on a normal month.
Agreed.
But 2 hours a month to be time free for only $21,000 last month versus Pace making $1 million. But did he get 10 minutes that were his?
I bet he's disciplined enough to get 10, but I don't think he's able to get more. If that makes
Right,
sense.
right. And so I don't want that.
No, I agree.
just don't.
100%.
Uh,
Fully agree.
yeah. There's a couple super chats here. BuzzTune Mikey is looking forward to next year's Denny's meetup. We'll be doing a few midnight Denny's
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
He says thanks, figuring it out one day at a time. That's the thing, Cody. None of us know this when we're starting.
No.
We learn it as we go, and then we share it with other people, and maybe they can skip some of the mistakes if possible. Frank says, with us teaching him, he's able to set his own pace. I like that. That's a Dividend Dave level joke.
Exactly.
Cody has a question for you, Matt. He says,
Yeah.
Matt, would you want 500 units if it was 5 properties?
No. Mm-mm. Nope. Still don't. Because I know what that means. I know that means that I'm likely going to have revolving bank debt. If I could sell or finance that type of a property and do 5 of them around where I am, the problem is where I am is it's the oldest part of the country. And that stuff is really super hard to find. And so most of the guys that have it either converted mills, like Dion, like you saw downtown with all those converted mills, the same one guy owns all those converted mills. And for me, I believe the better, lazier way to do it, 30-year fixed rate debt, I never have to think about it ever again. I don't have to worry about what debt's going to look like in 5 years. I don't have to worry about paying off equity partners. I don't have to worry about returns. I don't have to worry about the fact that, the challenge that happens in those bigger buildings, and I lived in one, and I got hit with a $70,000 assessment.
Yeah,
I got hit with a 70, right? $70,000 assessment. Well, who's managing all those processes and the contractors and then having to get in there? Like, your life becomes absolute pure hell. And so for me, I've got a very easy business where I actually looked at it in the last month. If you look at just the property stuff, I spent less. If you look at just the stuff where it's not projects, I spent less than 20 hours. I'm very excited for in the next 2, 3 months when all of those big projects are done. And I don't know that I'm going to go look for another one. I really don't, because that's a lion's share of my time. On my projects, I spent 30 hours this month on my projects. But that's the jail. It's $1 million project, and that's a fiveplex. That's another $1 million project. And another fourplex where we were trying to get paving done and things like that. So all of that time. So I agree with you 100%, Dion. I think, I had to go bigger because I got 4 young kids. If I were single and your age, you're quite frankly, you're probably too big. You probably have too many properties.
I've looked at which one or maybe two I would offload,
Uh-oh, some kids are
re
getting sold.
resettle the debt, and then just travel. And actually talking with my brother a bit, I mean, because it blew his mind the other day. Somebody in the chat asked, would you buy a $700,000 house, right? And so the knee-jerk reaction from him and me is absolutely not. I might house hack something for $700,000 if it produced the right yield, if I didn't live there, right? And so I'd look at it. And so of course he goes, no. And I go, okay, what's your house worth? His house currently is worth almost $700,000. And he's like, I didn't even know that, because he bought it for $68,000 back when you could trade 2 goats and a carrot for it, right? But he's lived there so long, and it's a house with an EDU, and it's 5 acres, right? So it's gone up in value significantly. We talked about what would we do if we just sold everything?
Yeah.
What would be left, right? And people talk about net worth. I like net worth after the cost of selling, paying agent fees and title and escrow and whatever else, and seller or buyers are going to, negotiate, and then paying taxes on it. If you paid all that, what's left? What would you do with that? And at some point, Pace actually had a great idea in that video. He said, at some point, you're going to look at your equity and you're going to think, that's so much. I don't want to own any rentals.
Right.
Then the right size is zero. But
He asked that question, right? Like he did. He asked that question. He said, how many rentals do you think I'm going to own in 10 years? I knew what the answer was. It was none. And he's like, that's exactly right. I was like, exactly. And you're going to sub to them or sell or finance them or do all of these different things because all of us recognize that it's a means to an end. That's all. It's to buy our time back. But he wants to put in 10 more years. What's kind of crazy is, don't you think it's kind of crazy that he wants to put in 10 more years?
But yeah, no. So I had the same thought with you.
Yeah.
Your cash flow was enough, right?
Yeah. Oh,
We
yeah.
share what it was,
Yep.
but you're waiting on the sale of a company. And yeah, there might have been some golden handcuffs where you might get something from the sale, because I had the same thing.
Sure.
But I stayed for long enough knowing that as long as I was there, there wouldn't be a sale, right? So I was kind of stretching out my time to protect the employees. You stayed to facilitate the sale. You wanted to
Yes.
protect the employees by staying, right?
Stupid.
Again, you're coming up on 10 months, 8 months right now since
Yeah.
February. Has any of them reached out, even after making content about none of them reaching out to you?
Yeah. So I think one guy that I was there with for 17 years reached out. And another marketing guy reached out. But yeah, like these people that, I mean, it was let's put it this way, less than a handful, less than the numbers on less than the digits on your hand. It was a small number. And what's shocking to me is none of them know, they have no clue that had that company not sold the way that I got it sold, if I had just left, it wasn't a massive company. It was a smaller company. And Dion, I know that you probably won't say, but I'm just guessing that the company that you left might be a little bit smaller than it was when you were there.
They're doing good now, but there was a year of loss of millions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It took time, and it took
Sure.
some hiccups, and it took some stupid decisions made after I left that they thought they were only doing because I was there, and now they realize they were only doing it because that's what made the company work. Yeah. So, yeah. Lesson learned there. I had $2 million in golden handcuffs that never factored into me staying or me going. It really was, how's this going to impact the people that work here? Just like with you.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? And then since I've left, same thing. trying to think, none of them have reached out unless it's like, how does this DOT thing work? How does this other company work? It's been work related reach outs. It's never once been, hey, let's go to lunch. What's going on with you? So
Oh yeah, that didn't
those
happen.
for those people thinking they're staying for their work family,
Hmm.
everyone that's there, no matter how close you feel to them, is being compensated to spend time with you. Think
That's
that.
right.
Ironwood Workman says, what happens when gangs move into your property? So Matt and I are both Second Amendment people. That doesn't happen.
Doesn't.
I think both of us live waiting for the reason and the excuse. Please do that. But we don't own apartment complexes of 50, 40, 60, like in Idaho, or not Idaho. What is it? Colorado. And the other one was Chicago now, where the rumors are gangs are just taking them over. We
Yeah.
own small multifamily with mostly tenants who own firearms too. So, but the cities do crumble. That's why I don't invest in King County. That's why
Yeah.
I own in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny, but most people in this audience aren't old enough to know the real stories of New York City. They have no clue. Like, look it up. Look what New York was like in the late 60s, early, through the 70s and even the early 80s. Something like double-digit percentage of cops were on the take. Like, it was like a third world country there. And it took great politicians with great ideas and enforcement of those ideas to completely transform the city into what it then became. But for the last 10 years, New York has gotten worse and worse and worse every single year. And it's gotten better in some areas and then much worse in other areas. And at the end of the day, quite frankly, anybody that votes for AOC deserves exactly what they got. So how's that for a non-political message? But I
Yeah.
think that people don't like cities. I stay away from the closest city to me. The real closest real city is Boston. It's an hour away. And the funny thing about my state, you can look it up. We have more guns than people in my state.
Washington would be similar too. It's just that one county that's stupid.
Yeah.
And as far as, not trying to be political, Jason Hartman has a very successful platform, right? Big following, big
Yeah.
YouTube channel and everything. Have you heard him talk? He just calls
Yeah.
Earth an idiot, and anybody who follows her an idiot. And what they're going to do to the community, to what the 15,000 or $25,000 first time home buyer does, just tears it apart. And I'm like, how does his channel not get canceled? But I say red or blue, and a video will completely spike or not spike. Different.
Yeah.
Get it? So people, I'm sure, know my feelings. Kind of like I say things that I shouldn't all the time. There's a comment here from Ironwood. This is not how they meant it. So Ironwood Workman, this is why my relationships never work out. And this is why most relationships, I think, are miserable people. But Ironwood was talking about investing. He says, my goals always change because life, because life always changes. I try to move 5 years at a time, along with term goals, and set new ones as I go. I totally agree. I think about every 5 years, people are new people. And here's why relationships have never worked out for anybody, even the people who think they are. One of you is miserable. It's because what are the odds that every 5 years, the new person that you both become likes the other one? It's astronomically small that would actually work out. And
You and
everybody,
I are just lucky.
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah. And it's always whoever I'm talking to, you guys are the exception. You guys are absolutely the perfect couple. You make me jealous. She's not in the room with you, right? She can't stab you right now.
No, but well, so what Ironwood says too is what's really funny is Dion, did you even set like I didn't set goals other than it was like a revolving goal. Like when I never said get to 5, get to 10, get to 100, get to this, get to that, no, I never did that. I just said, hey, you know what? I want to do this. And the thing that I'm going to do is make sure that I do a good deal. And then when I finished that up, I was like, okay, I kind of feel like I'm ready to move on from this one. I want to make sure I'm ready to do another good deal. I never sat down and did goals or a vision board or any of that stuff. I just naturally, it just kind of evolved as to, nope, this is what I'm doing. My goal now isn't to, hey, in 5 years, I want to be fewer properties. in 5 years, I want to have this much more money. I want to have this much more cash flow. I don't look at any of that stuff. I make the decision in the moment for what I think is the right thing for me to do then. You're the
That's
same.
how law enforcement is. You're allowed to make a decision based on the information you had at the time, right? That's why
Yeah,
you can look back and go, that's not what you should have done. Well, based on what they knew at the time, that's what they should have done.
sure.
So sometimes when somebody asks you to explain something and you take the time to formulate a thought and you put it in a chronological order, it really sounds like you're detail oriented and that you had a plan. No, that didn't happen at the time. What happened is recently somebody asked you to explain something. So you put it into a cohesive thought so that you can explain it. So it sounds organized, right? So when people ask me the goal thing, I'm about to answer, and this is going to make it sound like I had a plan and that it followed us and that I thought it through logically. No, this is looking back. How would I explain to somebody what I did without any logic? There's two types of goals. You have action goals and outcome goals. And what a lot of people talk is the outcome goals. I want 500 units. I want $10,000 a day in cash flow. I want whatever these outcome goals are that you can't control. So I never did. I had a loose theory that if I acquired a rental property every 2 years and 10 years, I'd have five. Five would be close to making more than what I was making at the time. So not a goal, but an idea, right? But
Yeah.
did I have action goals? Absolutely. I'm going to do these steps to increase my income. Those are action goals. I can get hazmat endorsement. I can get passenger endorsement. I can do these things to teach more things to be more attractive to my employer. And then I'm going to make action goals and I'm going to spend less. I had no streaming services, no cable, no nothing. My poor kids had no TV for a few years, right? Like those are action goals. That doesn't control the outcome, but I can control these things that give me more likelihood of having the outcome goals that people talk about of a better financial future. And then it was these action goals. I'm going to have auto searches set up by multiple agents. Action goals. I'm going to talk to lenders to see what are my options. Action goals of I'm going to study my market to find out single family houses don't work here. Then study small multifamily, figure out that a very few of them do work here. And so that's the asset one. So those are all the action goals. If somebody looks at me and goes, "What'd you do?" I can explain the 10 years. But it wasn't like I said, okay, I'm going to buy a property in 2 years and then 2 years, and then I'll have some more money. So it'll be a year and a half. That's what happened because of the action goals. The outcome goal ended up being way better than what I expected, right? And it wasn't even a property every 2 years, it sped up. And then if you fall into the Pace Morby trap, it sped up towards the end and you go, okay, instead of one every other year, now I can buy one every year, one every 6 months. So in the next 10 years, I can have 30.
Mhm.
No, it was this gives me the freedom I want. How do I dial this back now? What are my action goals now? My action goal is to make sure that I do enough diving to justify having the equipment and living on the water. My action goal is to make sure I spend enough time in other countries to understand that the whole world's not falling apart, just the US, because everybody keeps voting left because they're stupid. There's transparency in how I feel. Uh, look through the comments here really quick. Go ahead, Matt. You can dip out on answering. This is on my channel. It's not going to defund you. So,
This
going one.
hasn't really been the lumberjack landlord talking this entire time. It's somebody else behind the picture. That's why.
It is. That's why I had to cover you up. It's not really you. It's my AI voice chat in the background. Here's how dumb the left is. I'll just be transparent.
Oh no.
People say I vote left because I want women to have rights. Biden gets into office. We have a Democrat-controlled Senate. Roe versus Wade gets overturned. This is how dumb they are. And back to real estate.
Oh no.
Go ahead, Matt. There was a Pineda Vegas event and the Pace meeting. Compare your reaction to the two. There was a Pineda Vegas event and the Pace meeting. Compare your reaction to the two. Sorry,
Um,
I'm not sure I get that. Do you understand the question there, Mike, Matt?
uh, I, I don't, I don't know. So there was, so I've not been to a Pace event. You and I were at that mini Pineda event. I don't care for Ryan Pineda.
I think anybody in that room did that day.
I think that, uh, he was very successful flipping couches. He was very successful flipping houses in the fastest developing and growing market in the entire US for a period of time. And this isn't a judgment against him. This is a judgment against everybody that calls himself a business person. Let's see how you do in a recession. Let's just see how you do in a recession. Because I'm confident that even though you can't change the opponent and you can't change the market that you're playing in, right? So just because Dion, I've seen some comments and I want to address it. Just because Dion bought in the last 12 years doesn't mean that he only knows how to manage in the last 12 years. How could he manage in a recession when he's never had one? However, in looking at the way he runs his business, he doesn't need to outrun the bear. He only needs to outrun you. And that's what's going to happen. So I look at it and I see a lot of, I call them, and it's rude, but we know that I'm rude. And so I call them wantrepreneurs. And there's a lot of people that have grown very, very, very big businesses that have gone to zero that capitalized based on a moment in time. I don't wish anyone that failure, but my experience in that room, I saw all that I ever needed to see from that particular person. And then his subsequent interview that he did, I saw all I needed to see in that video to recognize that's not somebody that I can or want to learn from. I'm good. I'm good.
There's a question here from Ironwood that I'm going to ask for clarification on. If you could say it again. Ironwood says, I would love to know what the companies are. I thought Dion was a policeman. I'd looked up. I couldn't see if that was like a part of a thread or something.
I'd love to know what the companies are. What does that
Yeah,
mean?
I don't know.
Oh, our
But
companies? I wouldn't disclose what my company was. I had NDAs and all
oh,
that stuff in
so
place.
I ran a CDL school for the last 10 years, Ironwood. I was a cop until 2008 when I was laid off. So I think that's maybe if that's what he meant, what our companies were,
Maybe.
right?
I was a software guy. I worked in software for 26 years and worked my way to the bottom of the pile where I was in charge.
That's what I did. I started as a CDL instructor at Commercial Driver School in Washington State that had 6 staff in one location. I worked there for a decade, got demoted to the president, grew it to 60 staff with 5 locations, and then retired in 2022. But policeman thing was for about 8 years, got laid off in 2008 because of the housing crash
Mhm.
recession. Because, when there's a recession, there's no more crime. So we don't need cops anymore.
I've heard that.
Stephen V. Family time is important. I want my kids to know I was there rather than always gone and scheduling their time in exactly.
Well, some parents take the responsibility of wanting to help their kids get rich. I do. My kids are on my job sites. They hear how I talk to contractors and that I'm respectful. They hear that we take pride in paying when our contractors are done. They take pride in the fact that we look, and we take pride in the fact that when it's a job well done. And that we are proud of the fact that when we show up to a job site, we could have 20 people there. I'm employing 20 people. I'm keeping 20 people busy with good paying jobs, and that's something that unrealized gains completely annihilates. Sorry, I had to take my turn, Dion.
Oh, I know that. Yeah. So, and everybody's like, "Oh, you don't have $100 million. What are you worried about?" Well, the entire economy, and
Yeah.
the fact that that's how the wage tax started out, was going to hit less than 1% of the people, and now it hits minimum wage.
The fact that I've never seen a poor person give 10,000 bucks to anybody, that's what I'm worried about.
Oh, what does my silly sister-in-law say? You can't be generous unless you're poor because you give away a larger portion of what you have.
Yeah, idiot.
So Thought is an idiot. Yeah. Bo asked a question here. Did you speak with Pace about his gator method? We didn't, but we didn't really get to ask too many questions because it was hard to get a word in edgewise. So I think the conversations going forward with Pace, if he comes back, might be a little more moderated to where
I
it goes
think
back.
so. I think we'll get the opportunity to I think that was learning about him and how he feels about the market and how he feels about other fellow gurus and how he feels about the community. I think that was a great kickoff to the next video that we would do with him, where then we start to talk about more of his principal stuff. Like when Zoob went on their Sunday church, he actually did a breakdown of a buy box. Here's how you build a buy box. And he spent about an hour with the person building a buy box. So he did that, and it would be cool to engage Pace on that level. Although there's a million videos about it, it'd just be cool to kind of get his off the cuff explanation of this is what and why.
Yeah, totally agree. The off the cuff is what matters, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody said it about the news the other day. If it's a live conversation, it's real. If it's a recording, it's completely edited BS. And I'm not saying that YouTube videos that are edited aren't as valuable, but when it comes to, so like if you're learning how to play the guitar or the piano or something, sure, you want to be able to back it up, go through that section, learn that chord, right? Get that music embedded in your brain. But when it comes to real estate investing or investing, and this is why to me the live streams are more important than the edited videos, is I don't care what, like Pace Morby knows. If he had an hour to go, okay, I'm going to put content together for an hour and I'm going to make an edited video. What I want is stream of consciousness in a conversation when somebody asks a question.
Yeah.
Does he know the answer? Does he have to look it up? Because if he knows the answer and he just spits it out, like, what's your criteria on buying a rental? I can rattle that off in like 45 seconds because it matters. When I see a deal, I need to know in seconds, am I going to invest more time in looking at this or am I going to dismiss it as quick as possible? So
Yep.
that matters. If somebody asks me a super detailed tax question, it absolutely doesn't matter. Right? If somebody came to me and said, how do you do a roof on your house? What's the underlayment? How do you account for water wicking and all of these things that you're going to do? I don't care. I'm gonna hire a pro. Super detailed tax questions, I'm going to hire a pro. What I do need to know is Congress is full of people who own real estate that keep making laws that benefit people who own real estate. It's so weird how that works out. So I'm going to invest in the asset class that benefits from levered depreciation, inflation-based debt destruction, principal pay down, cash flow, the tax benefits that come along with having write-offs and being paid, being able to pay for expenses, and then paying taxes on what's left if there's anything even after depreciation. Like I can rattle through all that. That's what matters, and that's why the conversation with Pace to me would be more important in a live.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
I
No,
don't,
that's
even if we weren't there, just I think if he would never make it this far into one of my videos, I'm sure. But if Pace is watching, he should do live streams where he answers questions because that's when people will learn from him. Not the here's something I'm showing you, but here's something I know based on the question I just got asked, like the questions in the lives right now. Somebody asked me something. If I know it, it means that's probably something you want to know
right.
because I needed to know it. If I go, I don't know, I would probably send you to Millennial Mike because he invested a distance. That's not something I need to know for my strategy, but I know a source. And that's where it would be nice to do them lives with Pace.
Yeah, yeah. He
That's what I
was,
was hoping Zuber was going to do. Just like
yeah, yeah.
go live but connecting Zoom to YouTube, you remember, it's not an easy thing to do.
I mean, clearly now, based on how it's going for me, yeah. Like, damn
Right.
it. But so I've seen Pace live a number of times. Electric. The guy is fun to watch. Like when he takes a call and he's trying to like literally coach somebody through a deal. I've gotten to watch some of those. They're awesome. And you can, and it's like having the career that I had, being the number one sales guy in every company I was ever in, and not by a little bit, by a lot of it. Like you couldn't see my ass from where the second place guy was standing. When he said, I'm the best guy in that room, I'd love to try that out. And he's done it a lot more than I have, like 1,000 times more than I have, like probably 2,000 times more than I have.
So do you
But
see
it's still,
why I don't want to spend time with those guys? Because I'm the
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I worked at a company where it was furniture delivery, right? And you got paid out a quarterly bonus based on who had the most compliments from your customers.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a chart on the wall. My chart covered 3 lines, and the next one maybe had 3 dots,
Yeah,
like the next line down. And it wasn't like I'm going to get the money. It was, oh, you made this competition.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
all for that.
yeah, exactly.
And so that's the trap of
Yeah,
investing.
it is for
You
sure.
can go, I can beat him. I can be better than that. Right? How many years of hypnosis, NLP, sales training has this person had to, with the intent of winning this negotiation, going to do it? I don't want that.
Yeah.
Right? When you win the game, stop playing. It's the time to focus on your kids. This is not the time to go.
Yeah.
If I can get in a room with Pace, I bet I could do more deals with him than him. Right? That's not the thought I even want to have. And you have that personality where you would have it too.
I'm so broken. Yeah, I get it. Like, and the whole thing was, it was just because he knew that he was the best. I'd like to at least have a chance to know that's the case before we just anoint people.
Fun
But
fact,
yeah,
building journey, because here in the chat, our Terry says in 1913, we amended the Constitution to allow income tax on the top 1%.
That's
The
right.
middle class would never be taxed on their income. How's that working out? And then Chester points out that the IRS and the Federal Reserve were both made in 1913.
They were.
Coincidence. It's a fun fact. Here's a fun fact that I like about the Federal Reserve Bank is that they have the best marketing strategy ever
Yeah, no kidding.
because they're not federal, they're not a reserve, and they're not a bank. Their name literally names off three things that you think, oh, that has significance, importance, power, validity, all in three names that they aren't.
If you really want to blow your brain up, look at the fact that the group of people that was most opposed to the Fed were ironically on the Titanic when it sank.
There's a good one.
That'll boil your brain. It's factually accurate, but were there conspiracy theories even as of 1913? Apparently there were.
On a more positive note, Julie says, good morning. I got good news this morning. The county gods approved my subdivide. That is awesome.
Oh,
Congratulations.
good for you. Congratulations. That's awesome.
There was also one up here from, I think it was Steve. I lost it. Where you have two rentals very cautiously buying the third one. That's exactly it. Right. I got the first rental, then 2 years later, the next one, and it was still a year and a half. I was probably feeling the same. I'd like to do it sooner, but slow and cautious, get the right deal, have the right reserves, save up the down payment. It's slow, it's boring, it's amazing after it all starts to kick in. Ironwood says that's all true. Should I laugh or cry? And Wealth Building Journey, Chester, I guarantee that's where I got that from. Minority Mindset, talking about the Federal Reserve, because he actually breaks it down more. He says it's not federal, then he breaks down what federal would be. Then he says it's not a reserve because they don't keep funds, and it's not a bank because you or me can't go there and make deposits. I can literally say exactly what he says when he does it. It's one of the reasons I still watch him. He's one of the ones where his YouTube didn't get so big, and then he started focusing on non-investing stuff. His videos are still core basic financial freedom information.
Yep.
REI Jared is at work, but jumped in to say hi. I'm at work too. I forget what I was going to do today. Oh, I have an interview today with I'm going to try to get them to interview you too, Matt.
Cool.
Writer for the Wall Street Journal is doing an interview on rents in the United States. And somehow the binder strategy ran across their radar and something else. Some of the reason why they reached out. But then
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say you have an answer in your email on the one that I reached out to.
Oh, I did. I saw that.
Yeah, cool.
I saw the answer. So cool.
Awesome.
Nice. You spelled county parasites wrong. Please don't give them the title they deserve. That's one of the things I hate, is having to beg for permission to use your own stuff.
Yes.
But congratulations, Julie, that it worked, because
it's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm doing one next month, actually, because I was shut down paving my own driveway.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I guess.
I'm thinking of putting in a retaining wall at my place, and I'm wondering what that permit process is going to be like.
Enjoy that where you are. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
No. I had to find workarounds for their permits here. It's a year's wait to get siding approval done.
Yes.
Years. So
yeah.
I found out they had a threshold of 1,000 square feet or less. You don't need approval. So I did the bottom half. And once that was done, then I took care of the top half. One of those is over 1,000 square feet. So in the city, when they came by to check other permits that they were reported on, which I had because I did electric work here that was permitted, they said that was really smart. They said more people should do that. I said, no, you should change your stupid policy. I think we'll probably be wrapping it up there. Thanks for hanging out with us on this random Friday live, where I think, Matt, this is the best you've looked. I mean, you took the most time to get ready for today. I appreciate it.
I understand. Look at all of my offspring. They look wonderful.
Everybody, I think I've been there.
To that place? That was the rink in Vegas.
Okay, no, I didn't go to that one. It's just
they all look the same.
I was in the Cheesehead world and went out on the ice. Where was I? It's where Schneider has their headquarters. Cheese country.
I don't know.
It does look like the colors. I don't know. I'm not a hockey guy.
Yeah,
Anna Kay is a hockey person. She plays
it's true.
hockey. My son played, but that's not a me thing. It's more of that sports ball. Everybody keeps talking football this week, and I'm like, just turn off the ears while you talk about that.
Exactly.
Tesla is going to the Broncos Seahawks game this weekend, and she's the Broncos fan. The person she's going with is a Seahawks fan. They're going to sit
Oh
in the
no.
Seahawks section. I'm hoping Tesla wears like head to toe Broncos colors.
Not. No. So first of all, the Seahawks tickets owner made me pay full price for my ticket.
Of course, because you're the Broncos fan, right?
Yeah.
Are you surprised I knew the names of the teams? Even?
Oh my God, because I totally prepped you at 1:30 this morning about all of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's some great pillow talk right there.
Yes. Well, it was getting early. Time to go to bed. All right. There's a good outro for us on this video. I hope everybody has a week full of amazing. I don't know if Zuber has a live coming this Sunday. My
He
next live
does in school.
in school. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
See you in school Sunday for his live stream. And then my next live stream will be Tuesday, 4 p.m. Pacific. Hope to see you there. Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord's live stream next week when his camera will be working because he might have to buy a new one between now and then.
Shh.
Is Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
Ciao.
See ya.
And we are off the tube of views.
That's wonderful.